this podcast, we will be looking at storytellers, stories, and the reasons that oral storytelling is important in our world today. You would think with all the technology we have available that stories do not have a place anymore, but they are needed more than ever. For in storytelling is where we find truth, we find reality, and we find the heart of what it is to be human. Welcome to the heart of storytelling. My name is Alyssa Curtain, and let's go on an adventure.
Welcome to this week's episode. This week we speak with Daniel Abercrombie, who is a head of programming at the Scottish Storytelling Centre. This is a great interview for those people who really want to do a lot of that background organisation and setting up storytelling events and programs, because that's exactly what Daniel's job is. And although he doesn't tell stories yet, I think that there is a richness of knowledge in this episode that will help people who are trying to set up communities to be just, as wonderful as what's happening in Scotland. It's just such a great beacon of how storytelling can be done well. And so in complement with the other interview with Donald a few episodes ago and with Beverly, who worked before, this is the third of our Scottish Storytelling Centre's people. Here's Daniel. Welcome to this week's episode. This week we're speaking with Daniel Abercrombie, who is in Scotland. Welcome to the podcast, Daniel.
Thank you very much.
I'd love to hear about your storytelling journey. Where did you start and where are you now?
Well, interestingly, first of all, I should say that I'm not a storyteller as such. I've worked in storytelling for many years and worked with many amazing storytellers. But my main role is to get them on the stage, get them on the program, and encourage and try and get other people interested in storytelling as well. But my background, gosh, I've been involved in music for a long time when I was younger. Creating music and putting on events and things, and I suppose that gave me an interest in just being part of a live experience. Being in a room with people who are creating and being able to take part in that as well. There was always something magical about that to me. So that, I suppose, has always been there. And that's through school and taking part in drama and music and all those things. And I in my early 20s did a master's study in tourism. Cultural tourism was the kind of angle on that, and within that there was a real focus for me, living and working in Edinburgh, to look at literary tourism. Which Edinburgh is a city full of an amazing history of literature, of writers and readers, and locations. The city itself has this incredible geography to it. So literary tourism was an interesting thing for me to study within the wider cultural tourism. And as part of that, I'm getting to my storytelling point here. As part of that, I came and interviewed the director of the Scottish Storytelling Centre, Donald Smith, as part of my studies. And that was actually, I think, maybe one of the first times I'd been in the Storytelling Centre. So this is maybe 2008, 2009, around that time. And the centre had opened in 2006 as the world's first purpose-built centre for live storytelling. So came and spoke to Donald and many other people involved in literature in Edinburgh. And I was very taken by what he was talking about how important storytelling was, and how special it was to have an arts centre, and with this specific focus on live storytelling. So I went away from that, finished my studies. Was very I was very pleased with what I'd done. I felt like it was something interesting had happened, and for the first time, I suppose, in my life, I felt the studies and the stuff I've been enjoying through my life, the creative part of my life, was actually beginning to combine, and thinking, well, maybe there's something in this for me as a whisper at a career, So, but then I couldn't get a job. couldn't get a job for life nor money, and I was back working in bars and whatnot. And but I kept in touch with Donald and kept asking him if there was any opportunities. And eventually there was a volunteer opportunity within the Storytelling Centre. We were doing a kind of mini festival, and I came along, handed out some programs, and just generally helped out wherever I was needed across like a week or something. And then later that year, member staff left. And I came to help out in a kind of assistant role. And, from there, I had my foot in the door, and opportunities were there. Um, and, that's 2010. So that's 14 years ago. So I've been working in the Scottish Storytelling Centre now since then, mainly in programming, really, and putting together a program of events for the public to enjoy and for storytellers to flourish in. So that's how I ended up here. I mean, there's been some journey in those 14 years. I mean, the centre's really blossomed, I would say. I think when it opened in 2006, nobody was maybe sure what it was going to be or how popular it was going to be, and there was a demand for it, and quite quickly it grew. So I've had it's just the most wonderful job. It's so varied, and there's so many opportunities to create. And I find now whilst I'm not on stage, and I'm not telling stories myself, the whole being around creative people, I see the programming as a creative process as well. And in those 14 years, I've had great opportunities to develop it, and here I am now, head of programming at the Storytelling Centre, and we do a whole range of different work. So it's a joy. I mean, it's a real joy for me.
That sounds wonderful. What a great journey into where you are. So what sort of things do you consider when putting together the programs for the programming? Yeah.
Yeah. So variety would be one thing. And also thinking about what storytelling is in different ways. So we very much have a space for people to come and just share stories on a really simple basis, the way that it was intended. And so that there's from that we have there's 2 or 3 different almost like open mic style events that we have regularly, monthly sessions, bi-monthly sessions, where there's maybe a guest storyteller around a theme, and then also space for storytellers just to share from the floor. So that is, I suppose, the the basis that we all work from in storytelling. That having that space. So certainly plenty of that. But I think we found over a period of time that there needs to be variety and storytelling. I think we still find. I'm jumping about a bit here, but to still find that this word storytelling, people have a preconception about what it is. Either it's reading from a book, or it's just for children. That's still, I think, in the wider consciousness. So what we've looked to do is to bring in other audiences through other means, which then can be exposed to storytelling as we see it, and then realize how amazing it is, and how they can see themselves in that. So, for example, we do a monthly session with a group called Loud Poets, who are spoken word poetry. And they bring in a younger audience into the centre, onto our mailing list. They see our theatre, and they see the other things that we have on. We can sometimes do some cross-programming. So over the years, there's been attempts like that to bring in other audiences. And then, storytelling, we mix it with music, we mix it with theatre, we mix it with dance events, traditional crafts, and so placing storytelling within other art forms as well, I think it just widens its appeal. So, yeah.
And so do you think that a lot of people have come through the centre into different art forms and then realised what it was and absolutely fallen in love with it? Is it that sort of people come in and they discover something new and then they stay?
I would say that certainly happened. But there's not one rule that fits everyone. I mean, I'd say some people are coming specifically for the storytelling experience, and then we certainly
Yeah.
have that to offer. I mean, it's the interesting thing about running an arts centre as well is that we can't be too narrow. We have to think about generating income. We have to, you know, quite a small team actually running an arts venue, and there's other elements to it which can bring people into the building. So, for example, at the front of the building, when you enter, the cafe's here. So we have a cafe, which is a nice, lovely open space where people host meetings. People come with friends and family. There's a kind of nice, with an exhibition space beside the cafe. There's a space there for children to roam around. An
Lots of
interactive
great
story
books in the
world.
bookshop.
Exactly. The bookshops, we run a little independent bookshop as well. These are all things that bring people into the building.
Mm.
And, from there, yes, they can see the flyers on the tables about upcoming storytelling events, and maybe they think, oh, you know what, I've never been to one of these before. Let's try it. And so it's about being a public space, and that's something I think we don't maybe publicly say, but I always think it's quite an interesting approach to running a public venue, like an art space that's open to the public, is to think of it in the storytelling tradition and the way that you would welcome people into your home to have a ceilidh. Do you know the word ceilidh? Where you'd come and you would visit and you would take part in storytelling and music, and so the visitor welcome has to have that kind of approach where people can come to a space, they can get food and drink, they can take part in events. So it's not just you're not just coming as a customer or a consumer or an audience member, but actually there's opportunities for you to explore your own creative process or to take part. And I think that to me is coming back to the root of the storytelling experience, where the two-way, the circular relationship between the audiences and the performers and the storytellers, where as a storyteller, you're needing to react to the audience. You're needing to feed back off the audience. You want them to sing along. You want them to respond to your questions, and you want to adapt to how they're feeling in that moment. And so we try and keep that in mind when we're thinking about how we operate this public space as well.
Well,
It's
you're
maybe not.
creating
It's
a
maybe
community, aren't you?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I think so. I think so. And I think that then feeds into other organizations, or whether either they're, third sector charitable organizations or other cultural organizations, other festivals, or creative bodies who are looking for a space to host an event or to take part in something, to put on their own mini festival or whatever. We're a good venue for that because our doors are open in that way. And that's, again, so for us, that yes, it generates income, but yes, it brings new people to the building. But also, if it means that we're a space within Edinburgh that that can really engage with different parts of culture, different parts of society in that way. So that's the approach in theory.
No, it's a great theory. I mean, I think one of the challenges always is this, what you said before about educating people about what storytelling is and what it isn't. And I know here we're having some trouble trying to find a way to do education marketing in that, to educate people about what we do. But it sounds like the cross-disciplinary stuff is a really great way to do it, which I really like the idea of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And we don't want to veer too far away from the core purpose.
Mm.
And we do family events for young people to enjoy storytelling, absolutely. But I would say on average, there's much more adult events probably. So we do, it's. I think the lucky thing we've got as well is that Edinburgh bills itself as this festival city,
Mm.
and we've got the Scottish International Storytelling Festival we run each October. that gives us a big platform to showcase what
Mm.
storytelling is.
Mm.
Means we can, and through, because it's a festival and it's, currently funded through Scottish Government as one of the Edinburgh festivals, it's a really good showcase for us
Mm.
in a time of year where there's no other major festivals going on. Really, I mean, August in Edinburgh is, we have everything, the Fringe and the Film Festival and the Book Festival, and it's an amazing time. And we heavily take part in the Edinburgh Fringe Festival,
Mm.
showcasing storytelling. Again, another great platform for us. But in October, there's space, I think, for us to really celebrate storytelling. And that gives us an opportunity to say, this is what we do, this is why we do it, and this is why it's amazing. Come and try it out.
Yeah. And so do you do outreach as well?
So, well, I suppose it's interesting to talk about the kind of structure of that. So, the Scottish Storytelling Centre, the building itself, is owned by the Church of Scotland. So they are the landlords of the building. There was a church on this site, many, many years ago. And they're hands off. They're really kind of there's a good relationship there. And but the kind of main partner organization in delivering the work, the Storytelling Centre, and the national reach of it all, so the outreach work, is through an organisation called TRACS. So that's Traditional Arts and Culture Scotland. And they're a national organisation that really promote the three national networks, three forums that we have through Scotland. So that's the Scottish Storytelling Forum, also the Traditional Music Forum, and the Traditional Dance Forum of Scotland. So those three art forms, traditional art forms, are based out of the Scottish Storytelling Centre. So they're based here in Edinburgh, but work nationally. So they're supporting creatives, promoting the art forms, encouraging people to take part, putting on events and festivals, and really advocating for what's special about these things and why they should be protected and celebrated. So within tracks, there's huge outreach work that happens, not always directly driven by tracks, but often by either individuals within the network, or there's groups within the networks who then we can, I say we as in tracks, I work for tracks as well, through supporting what other people are doing, and again that falls then back on the fact that I think it's quite rare for organizations like tracks to be part of a venue as well, so that we have this. It's not easy to run a venue. There's lots of overheads and whatnot. But having a venue gives us a platform again. So through many festivals, it's like this massive ecosystem. For the Storytelling Festival in October, we can be aware that there's this project happening way up in Orkney, for example, in the north of Scotland, that might fit perfectly with what we're planning to do in next year's festival. And because of the networks that we have set up through tracks, we're aware of that, we know the people, and then we can, hopefully either showcase that or help to bring it to Edinburgh, or showcase a piece of work somewhere else in the country. And there's an interesting piece of outreach through the Storytelling Festival that we do called the Big Scottish Story Ripple, which is the main kind of outreach element of the Storytelling Festival through the autumn period. And that idea is that a school or community group can apply to do an event with a storyteller, or the storyteller themselves can apply to go into a space. And we will, through the festival, be able to pay the storyteller's fee and travel. So the school gets the session for free, essentially, but they have to do a good deed in return. And that's the ripple effect. And then we log all these good deeds. So the school, it might be something simple like a litter pickup or something, or it might be like a really creative thing that they do. So that's a nice time of year where we get all these good deeds coming in. The story ripple, yes. But and then there's workshops, and there's participation events as well for outreach to get people involved. Yeah.
Oh, love it. I just love that. The network that you guys have created in Scotland. It's just wonderful. It's not a single individual and it's not a single group. It's a wonderful network of communities and individuals working together, which is great. I really
So,
love that.
so the Scottish Storytelling Forum are the real, heroes in that and drive that forward. And one of my colleagues, kind of looks after and develops the forum. Um, so the forum, can be made up of anyone who's interested in storytelling in Scotland, and there's a kind of small subscription annually which helps kind of support all this, but you don't have to be a storyteller to be part of the forum. It can be anybody who's really interested in taking part. We do, though, have a process for getting storytellers actively involved if they want to be. So there's a professional directory that we have in Scotland, and I think something like 150, maybe more, storytellers on that directory at the moment. All in different from different backgrounds, different skill sets, different interests within storytelling. Some are maybe full-time professional storytellers. Some are also teachers or librarians or theatre makers. As you'll know yourself, a range of backgrounds. And the directory is essentially it's a stamp of approval from the Storytelling Forum to say, yeah, you should work with this storyteller. They are excellent at A, B, and C. They'd be super to support you on your project. They could help your business deliver their message. They would be great with a school group, whatever it might be that the kind of specific interest is. So the directory, there's many other storytellers out there in Scotland who are maybe not on the directory out of personal choice or just not wanting to be yet or whatever and that's great, that's fine. But to be on that directory, there's a storytelling apprentice scheme that we run as well for aspiring storytellers, which can be, it's kind of different lengths for different people. There's training, there's peer-led sessions, there's performance opportunities, all kind of guided towards developing your skills as a storyteller. And I think that's quite organic process. And it seems, as far as I can see right now, it seems to be thriving. We put on these nights, we call them Stories on the Way. So these are like live storytelling sessions in our theatre, when it's normally maybe 7 or 8 apprentice storytellers, and they share 1 or 2 stories each. And they're really popular, they're very busy, and they're very talented storytellers. So I feel at the moment there's something really thriving, and people wanting to be involved, and people recognizing it's something they can do, and then with a bit of enthusiasm and a bit of learning and a bit of actually, yourself, you once you're up there, you just got to do it, and then next time you might change the way you do it, but you'll learn from it all the time.
Yeah, it's absolutely
so
like that. Yeah.
And the beauty of it all is you don't need to remember every single word. You can change it. You can go with what you're feeling. I think once people see that and understand that it's not this, monologue they need to remember, but they can go up there and feel confident and hit their beats if they want to. But I don't know. I'm seeing a lot of great storytellers coming through, and that's super. And I feel it's quite an organic thing. I know there's courses out there that you can train to be a storyteller and take part, and I think there's something really great in that. And I just think it's something we maybe need to develop a bit more in Scotland. But having this kind of organic, peer-led apprentice scheme and training opportunities is there's something really great in that as well. So.
Well, it's very, very close to how it was done traditionally as well, working as an apprentice with a master of some sort.
Sure.
And I was going to ask you anyway. I mean, I imagine you've seen some absolutely amazing stories and storytellers. Do you have any favorite moments that you've seen someone, or probably hard to narrow that down?
Yeah. Well, there's this one show and it is special to me because it was one of the first things way back in 2010 that when I started working, everyone said, "Oh, you've got to see this show." right? And I thought, oh, okay, this must be good, and it was excellent. So, and yeah, it was called The Man Who Planted Trees. It's an environmental fable, John Gino's story. Um, and it was a kind of two-hander piece, main storyteller, Richard Medrington, and also performed alongside with puppets. So it was a kind of, it was a older children's show, but for adults too. And it was just a beautiful, gentle piece done with humor, and just it just totally captured the audiences. You could see people were thinking, well, this isn't theatre. This is I'm part of this. And there was, there's that slight difference between direct address and theatre and a storyteller actually speaking to the audience and engaging with them. And then the puppets were funny, and there was like lavender smells wafted through the theatre at different parts as the forest started to grow. And I just thought, oh, this is me early into working in the storytelling centre, and not coming from a background of understanding fully what storytelling, could be. Had some experiences of it, but nothing on this scale. So that's always one that sticks out. And we did it in the Fringe Festival in August, many years in a row, and it was always packed out. And it would always be the show that, if you say to people, well, if you've never been to storytelling before, come and see this one, see what you think. And they'd always come out buzzing, and certainly if they had children with them as well, that was a really nice one.
Oh, that's the first time I've
But
ever heard smells being used. That's interesting.
so do you know that? So did you know that story at all?
No, I don't know that
It's
one.
like there's a barren landscape, and this man takes it upon himself to start planting trees. And then, as you can imagine, the landscape flourishes, and water comes back, and people come back to this space, and so it's an environmental fable. As these trees started to grow, they had these like little lavender drops that they would drop onto these almost like huge fans that they'd used as props as kind of backdrop props of trees. And then so they would waft them out and across the audience. So you get this kind of breeze, but on the breeze carried these lavender drops. And everyone go, oh, really nice
Wow,
smells. Yeah. But then they
that's
would also do a fun
spectacular.
trick.
Yeah.
They do a fun trick as well because they had to water those trees as well. So they would get spray guns and spray water out across the audience. And everyone's um, yeah, that was nice. But do you know, we've through the storytelling festival, we've developed quite a few longer form shows of that was the company developed that themselves, that show, many years ago. But it's like an hour long story. Um, in terms of stories that I've heard, again, there's like an old traveller tale, Orangey and Apley. Do you know that one at all?
No.
It's a kind of Cinderella type story of the wicked stepmother, and that was one that always sticks in my mind. The first time I heard that, um, just thinking that this is such a dark story, but it was done with a little song in the middle of it, and it was it also had a little twinkle, and it was a bit of a fun one. Yeah, sorry, I'm kind of glazing over now, thinking of all these wonderful stories and shows I've seen.
But I bet the storytellers are just glowing inside themselves, knowing that they had this lasting impact on you. But I really love the idea of the sensory, like the texture of the water and the smells, and then the sound of the voices, and then the visual actions. So all the senses are engaged in that. That's just
Mm,
so clever. I'd never considered that.
it's
So
a
this
nice show.
podcast is called The Heart of Storytelling. What do you think is at the heart of storytelling?
Oh, that's a good question. So we have this again, Scottish traveller proverb, which is the story is told eye to eye, heart to heart, and mind to mind, which is something we lean into quite a bit when we're explaining what storytelling is in Scotland. For me, that's the difference. That's what it is. Its heart is that it's about human connection. It's about sharing something rather than telling something, so that if I were to share something with you, you can then share it with someone else, and it goes on from there. So that it's not me up on the stage as the storyteller. It's us on an equal footing, round the fire, round the kitchen table, and I want to hear from you as well as you want to hear from me. And I think that's the heart of it for me. It's about sharing and connecting. And as long as we remember that, I think that's the real important thing.
And what
Yeah.
it's, one of those, I mean, Scotland, when I spoke to Donald, I was like, Scotland is like the beacon of how it's done really, really well, Why do you think we need it today? And why do you think it's really taken off in Scotland like it has?
Well, so we've just the Storytelling Festival we did in October this year, 2024, was our 35th Storytelling Festival. And as part of that, we were kind of reflecting a bit on how the first one had come about in 1989, way before my time. But there was this desire, I think, within storytellers, and Donald led a lot of this, obviously, to get it recognised, to get it on a even keel with other art forms that were being funded, that were being protected, and there was a drive then to do that. And so it's not always been the way, and when we do speak to storytellers from other countries, they're maybe in that space where it's not being protected and recognised. And it's not an easy space to get to sometimes, or get out of, where you have to really argue that case. I would imagine a massive turning point is having an art centre open with that designated purpose, and that's obviously been given us a platform to really celebrate it. I think as well, the importance of it. So you see now how life rolls on so fast that what we are talking about, or the way we live our lives now, could be radically different in 5 years. The way that, say, 10 years ago, there was little in the way of the social media that there is now, for example, and the distractions that we have in life now. The point where I'm wondering if we're coming almost full circle out of that, and people are really wanting the connections again. They're wanting to be in a space with other people and to be able to share in that way. And that's what storytelling offers. So I think that's why it's super important. I do think as well, post-COVID, that things have changed radically as well we're chatting on Zoom just now, and things like podcasts are such an excellent an excellent vehicle for storytelling. All of a sudden, you don't need to be in the Scottish Storytelling Centre to hear a story. You can listen to as many great, podcasts sharing stories. And again, it's about exposing people to it in that way. So I think, we have to keep adapting, but as long as we keep that spirit of connection and sharing in the storytelling approach, then I think it doesn't matter what kind of vehicle it has, really. Yeah, there is this disparate way of living now, isn't there? You're commuting into work, or and everyone's on their phones, and I'm just as guilty as anyone for that. But you're still connecting with people in different ways, and yeah, it's a bit of a roundabout answer to that, I suppose.
No, it's a great answer. I mean, you said it before, it's about connection, really. So I suppose if people are wanting to curate a festival, or to set up an evening, what sort of advice would you have for them if they were going to do that?
Yeah, good question. Um, I always like to think about the audience experience. So if you are, especially when there's so much choice nowadays, if you're wanting to gauge new people and bring them along to a storytelling event, making it as clear as possible what it is, through marketing materials. Clear messaging and a good image goes a long, long way to capturing people's 2 second attention span. So that is, very important. Think about the audience journey. Why should they take a punt on this? So an example of that would be we started a new storytelling series this year called the Hearth Fire Sessions, which is a kind of bi-monthly event. But so the idea of this was to take the traditional Ceilidh spirit of a storytelling session, which is, relaxed, different people sharing, but also give it a contemporary twist. That was just that's what was making this one slightly different. And so whilst there might be 2 or 3 storytellers on stage and a musician, we're also bringing in somebody from a different art form. So we've had, circus act or a magician, dancers. So as part of that, we were thinking, so who is this audience out there, and how can we approach them? So we worked with a local designer who came up with a kind of a graphic design that he made, which was fit that bill. It had this kind of traditional Celtic knot feel to it, but with some, different colours and contemporary kind of feel as well. And we used that as a platform to sell this series of shows, and called it, that there's live storytelling and traditional arts, but also contemporary performance. And they've been popular. They've been good. So thinking about the audience, and I think as well, making it clear what people can expect to happen at the event. Sometimes people might be put off if they feel they've got to participate, or they are going to be asked to jump up and tell a story. And, so you've got to be clear, because there are events like that, and some people want that. But if it's just an hour's entertainment, then just being clear about that too. And also, we it's the sales journey too, and not to get too kind of boring on that, but if a customer needs to seek out further information, then they might stop that process. They might go, you know what, I'll do that later, or but so we'd always look to tell people what time we're starting, what time we're finishing, is there an interval, what the ticket price is, what the concession rate would be, who the concession rate applies to, how they can book tickets, is there a QR code they can scan, all that stuff. Just trying to remember, give people the amount of details they need to try and take that new risk.
It sounds like marketing is such a big part of the process, isn't it? It's getting people through the doors.
Yeah, and marketing can be a scary word, and there's marketing professionals out there who would, dealing with maybe bigger scale projects. For example, the marketing of the Storytelling Festival is a huge undertaking, where there's so many different strands to the festival that you're having to promote. You're promoting an overall experience in that there's a festival happening. But within that, there's different sections of the festival. So there might be a family program, there could be an online digital program, there could be a podcast, there's long form shows, there's open mic shows, there's international elements. All of those need marketed in a certain way too. And within those categories, then there's individual shows who maybe have the real hook. Maybe that's friends and family, maybe it's fans of certain storytellers, or maybe it's people that are really interested in a theme who might come to that one show. And from there, then how do you kind of get them involved in other shows? So the festival, the festival is a huge, huge undertaking. And, we have one amazing marketing manager who manages to kind of steer that cruise ship. But then throughout the rest of the year, each individual event if we were doing 3 or 4 storytelling events, or actually maybe widen that out. Say we're doing 4 or 5 events across the week in the storytelling centre. So say 3 of them are storytelling based, 2 might be hires of the venue, so there could be theatre groups coming in
Mm.
to use the venue or whatever. It's impossible to really do a marketing thing on each one of them. So what the most simplest way that we have is we do a weekly mailing list. We do a mail out about kind of what's on. We have the weekly events and then upcoming events or dates for your diary, and then there's postering and there's flyering and then the social media. And just keeping on top of it all is it's quite the challenge sometimes. So being able to categorize things and put them out in bulk things is important. But then we have the tricky balance as well about audiences who look at the storytelling centre for to see what's on this week. What if we want to go out and do something on Thursday night? Has the storytelling centre got anything? Well, yes, we might, but it might not be anything to do with our programming. You know,
Mm.
so it's that balance slightly over. If we've got a festival, we can promote that as this is something we've curated. It shows what we're celebrating in storytelling at the moment. However, this other event, well, that's a spoken word poetry event that's been created and programmed by somebody else, but it's at our
Mm.
venue, so we just slightly have to watch that what we are putting on in the venue does fit the wider remit of the organisation as well.
So, in terms of storytellers, do you seek out people that you want to come for specific events, or is there like an audition process? What's the process for that?
Um, a lot of it's through the networks, really. So, because we have this kind of quite a large core group of active storytellers, word gets round of somebody doing an interesting project or an interesting performance or stories around a theme that could be of interest or it has been done somewhere else in Scotland. And, we hear about that
Mm.
um, and then can find an opportunity to put that on here in Edinburgh. Um, and it's also about from a programmer, and this is something I've really learned over the years, is there's 2 reasons really why the job is not just sitting behind a desk and or behind a computer. It's actually you have to be in that space as well as much as you possibly can, and that's hard because then that runs into the evenings and the weekends as well. But the 2 great things about that are you see what people are doing and you can see what's working with audiences, um, and certainly the open mic things as well. That's really beneficial. But also you get the reward. I keep trying to say this to our staff here as well that we all work away really hard to deliver a public venue and an arts program and whatnot. And if you just go home at the end of the day, you don't get that reward of being in the room and hearing the stories and the music and the songs and that special moment. I remember clearly, like, the first few events that we did coming back out of COVID, where we're all masked and socially distanced and stuff. But it was like, that's that feeling. That's why we do this. So it's important for me to be as much as I can, hearing stories and that's why podcasts have been really great as well because I can do that when I'm doing my dishes at home
Mm.
or I'm on out for a run or something. I can tune in and hear stories that way, and that's been a really positive thing. And before, I mean, years ago, it just used to be like the Moth in North America that would kind of listen to storytelling that way, but now
There's
there's a few
heaps,
good.
aren't there? Yeah, there's
Yeah, and
heaps.
it's great. It's great though. You can hear storytelling anytime, and for me that's really great because I don't want to be in work all the time. I need to those dishes in themselves.
Are you ever tempted to get up on stage and do a story?
Well, this is the big threat looming over my head sometimes. I think I would yeah, I would think so. I feel like as I said before, like I do get a lot of creative satisfaction from my job. Um And because I've been doing it so long, I often feel like if I was to stand up and then do a story, they'd be like, "Oh, did you see Dan told a story the other night?" And that's for me in my head. I'm like, "Oh no, I don't want that." That's just the bad parrot on my shoulder telling me not to. You see, I've got two children. I like telling them stories. And we've so many storytelling books at home that we read them at bedtime, and then we try doing it without the words in front of us. And my youngest is 5, so she's really loving that at the moment. So maybe I do still sing, and I'm more confident doing that. I just need to bite the bullet and do it.
There's an open mic night with your name on it, I reckon.
Yes, I know. Yeah, I can talk a good game about how great it is, and then when it actually comes to myself, yes.
Well, thank you. You've been really great. This has been really helpful, and hopefully people listening who are trying to do all that back end work can really get something out of this interview.
Oh, thank you. I'm pleased. I love talking about storytelling a lot. I've just been through that with the storytelling festival. Last month it was a lot. I love telling people about what we do and trying to explain why it's a great art form, why people should take part, or why they should come and enjoy it. So no, if anyone wants to explore more about what we're doing, there's our website, Scottish Storytelling Centre. If you're in Edinburgh, there's many good events and throughout Scotland. But then also online, we do events online now and again as well, and run our own occasional podcast as well called Another Story. So
I've listened to every episode now. I'm waiting for the next one.
oh, good. Well, yes, me too. I'm trying to figure out. As I head towards the end of the year now, it's on my list of what should we do for next year.
Yeah.
Because I think we've done them really in the lead up to the Storytelling Festival, talking about different projects that we're doing within the festival. I'd love to find a way to do them more regularly and really showcase some of the live storytelling that we have here, because those are the special moments that happen in front of an audience, I think. So, well, it's been so nice to chat to you, and thank you very much for
Thank
having
you.
me.
No, it's been really, really great. Thank you so much.
If you've enjoyed the podcast and would like to support me to continue the work that I'm doing, please head to buymeacoffee.com/Alyssa Curtain and make a donation or sign up for a subscription. This is a passion project, and as such, it is voluntary. So your donations make it easier for me to continue this work. Thank you for your support.
Well, that's our episode for today. I hope you've enjoyed learning about storytelling and folktale, fairytale, myth, legend, or personal tales, wonder tales, all sorts of stories, and the art of storytelling, and why we really need to continue using it today. You can find more information about me at alyssacurtain.com or at Alyssa Curtain Stories on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. I hope that you can find your heart in storytelling.